So it looked like WNBA owners has responded to the WNBA players in regards to this whole strike.
The WNBA has dropped a statement that suddenly flips the entire lockout saga upside down. Owners insist they put salary raises on the table and promised uncapped revenue sharing. Yet for months, players have warned fans of a different reality. Someone isn't being honest, and this release just ripped the curtain back on everything. Caitlyn Clark now stands trapped in the crossfire, with the 2026 season dangling on the edge. This announcement may have shattered the player's story completely. So who's telling the truth here? Owners offering pay growth and revenue sharing? Or a league scrambling to save face now?
Jackson, who was the executive director of the WNBPA, which, by the way, you guys, I didn't realize that Terry Jackson is related to Jaren Jackson, who was an NBA player. I just found that out recently. So she's clearly been in the basketball world for a while, but she did an interview with CNBC, and I wanted to share with you guys some of her comments about the state of the current negotiations. She said, "We're a little frustrated with where we are right now, but we are holding to our principles. We're staying open to the fact that these negotiations will continue because they must. We'll be at the table for as long as they take, and we're hopeful that there's enough folks on the team side of things that will start to push these things along." She also said it's hard for us to understand why we are so far apart on things that we should be closer to, that should be so easy, but it seems as though at times the league and the team come into the negotiating room with a mentality that pay equity is optional.
Let's break down what just hit. The WNBA owners just dropped an official statement answering the players' strike authorization vote. And this message feels explosive because according to the owners, they've supposedly been offering major salary boosts and a new uncapped revenue sharing system all along. But the players have told fans the total opposite. They've insisted the owners shut down revenue sharing. They've said the league refuses to deliver real change. So now either the owners are misleading everyone in this release or the players have been spinning the truth this entire time. And honestly, after reading this response, it's starting to feel like the players may have been the ones playing games.
Wants to see that happen. And I truly hope that just everybody at the table on the player side, again, it affects the players more than it affects the team owners, but on the player side, I hope that they just do realize that this momentum is so great. And the WNBA has offered a pretty high salary increase. And so that's something to take into consideration. I know that they want the equity, they want the revenue split, but I guarantee you, if the WNBA continues on the trajectory that it's on with the momentum that they have, they will be able to get that revenue split eventually. And I do also think it's just going to take more time in the business structure of the WNBA. They're going to need more time to kick out the private investors that they got in who own that 17% or whatever, or maybe the NBA owns less of the league if they're not having to subsidize and all these things. Those are business situations that are going to take much longer than even a couple months.
The statement opens by acknowledging that players voted to authorize the executive committee to call a strike if they choose to down the line. Fair enough, that's their right. But then the owners drop a bombshell. They say they strongly disagree with how the WNBA Players Association has described the current state of negotiations. And here's the line that changes everything. They claim the players' statements fundamentally misrepresent what's actually happening at the bargaining table. Read that again. Fundamentally misrepresent. That's not soft language at all. That's a direct accusation, and it sounds a lot like calling someone out for lying.
So this was a scary statement to read. It's from the WNBA Players Association. Thursday, December 18th, 2025. The players have spoken through a decisive vote with historic participation. Our membership has authorized the WNBPA's executive committee to call a strike when necessary. The players' decision is an unavoidable response to the state of negotiations with the WNBA and its teams. Time and again, the players' thoughtful and reasonable approach has been met by the WNBA and its teams with a resistance to change and a commitment to the draconian provisions that have unfairly restricted players for nearly 3 decades. Players' vote is neither a call for an immediate strike nor an intention to pursue one. Rather, it is an emphatic affirmation of the players' confidence in their leadership and their unwavering solidarity against ongoing efforts to divide, conquer.
The statement opens by acknowledging that players voted to authorize the executive committee to call a strike if they choose to down the line. Fair enough, that's their right. But then the owners drop a bombshell. They say they strongly disagree with how the WNBA Players Association has described the current state of negotiations. And here's the line that changes everything. They claim the players' statements fundamentally misrepresent what's actually happening at the bargaining table. Read that again. Fundamentally misrepresent. That's not soft language at all. That's a direct accusation, and it sounds a lot like calling someone out for lying.
I don't get that these players are constantly, in my opinion, using language that makes it nearly impossible.
Now let's slow this down, because what the owners are saying couldn't be clearer. They're claiming the players are telling fans one version of the story, while a completely different reality is unfolding behind closed doors. And if that's true, it's a serious problem, because players have spent months painting owners as greedy, unwilling to share revenue or pay fair wages. But now the owners are pushing back, saying, "Hold on. We've been offering exactly what you're demanding." So at this point, one side isn't being honest. And the question every fan is asking is simple. Who's telling the truth? The statement continues by saying it's hard to understand accusations that the league is resisting change, especially when they claim to be proposing multiple CBA updates, including significant immediate salary increases and a new uncapped revenue-sharing model designed to keep pay rising alongside revenue. Let that sink in. Significant immediate salary increases and an uncapped revenue-sharing model. That is exactly what players have been demanding all along. And according to the owners, it's been on the table this entire time. So if that's true, why have players been acting like the league refuses to move? Why have they told fans the owners won't share revenue? Why push the narrative that ownership is greedy and unfair? Because if this statement holds up, the owners were ready to give them what they wanted, and if players misled fans about that, their credibility just took a serious hit. Now let's talk about what this means for Caitlyn Clark, because right now she's the face of the league. She's the biggest draw in the WNBA. She's the reason viewership exploded last year and why brands suddenly rushed in with investments. And now she's caught right in the middle of this chaos. If the 2026 season gets locked out, that's a massive blow to her career. That's a full year of her prime gone. That's a year where she can't build on the momentum she's worked so hard to create. And honestly, that's devastating. The wild part is Caitlyn likely had no idea this was even happening. She's not in CBA negotiations. She's not on the executive committee. She's just a player trying to do her job. But now she's stuck dealing with the consequences of whatever games are being played behind closed doors. And that's what makes this so unfair to her, because if a lockout happens, she's the one who stands to lose the most. Not the veterans. Not the players who've already secured their legacy. Caitlyn, because she's right at the peak of her earning power right now, and a lockout crushes that momentum. Now circle back to the owner's statement, because they also said the league remains committed to reaching a deal quickly and delivering a 30th season for players, fans, teams, and partners. They claim negotiations have been handled in good faith and with urgency, and that the goal is a new CBA that meaningfully improves player pay, benefits, and overall experience while protecting the league's long-term growth. And that last part matters, long-term growth, because that's what this really comes down to. The owners aren't only thinking about 2026. They're looking ahead 10, 20, even 30 years. And if the league can't survive financially, none of this matters. The WNBA could collapse, and then nobody gets paid. So yes, the owners say they're trying to protect the future of the league. And honestly, that mindset makes sense, but right now the players appear locked in on squeezing out as much money as possible immediately, without fully weighing what that could mean down the road. And this is where everything gets messy, because players have been loudly claiming the league isn't growing, that viewership is slipping, that fan engagement is fading. And the uncomfortable truth is they're not wrong. After Caitlyn went down with injury last season, ratings fell hard, attendance dipped, social media buzz collapsed, and the casual fans who tuned in for Caitlyn quietly disappeared. That's a massive issue, because if the league isn't expanding, there's no new revenue to split. That leaves owners boxed into a brutal position. They're trying to grow the league, pour money into marketing, improve infrastructure, and build something sustainable while players demand more cash right now. And those goals don't always line up, because if owners give everything today, there may be nothing left to fuel growth tomorrow. And if the league doesn't grow, everyone loses. Now let's talk about the fans, because fans are worn out. They're tired of the drama, tired of the uncertainty, tired of not knowing whether there will even be a 2026 season. And if a lockout happens, a lot of casual fans aren't going to stick around waiting for the WNBA to sort itself out. They'll move on. they'll find something else to watch. And that's a massive problem for the league. Let's be honest, the WNBA needs Caitlyn Clark far more than Caitlyn needs the WNBA. She has endorsement deals, her own business moves, investments, and millions coming in off the court. If 2026 gets locked out, she'll be financially fine. The league won't be. Without Caitlyn, viewership falls, attendance dips, sponsorship interest dries up. Everything takes a hit. That's why this has to be resolved fast. And now for the elephant in the room. If the owners are telling the truth and they really have been offering salary increases and revenue sharing, then the players haven't been honest. And that's a serious issue, because trust is everything in negotiations. If players misled the public about what's happening behind closed doors, owners have no reason to trust them, and that makes reaching a deal even harder. But here's the reality. We still don't know who's telling the truth. So far, we've only heard one side of the story. The owners have dropped their statement, but we still haven't heard a detailed response from the players. So maybe the owners are spinning the truth, making their offer sound better than it really is. But judging by the tone and confidence in this statement, it seems like the owners truly believe what they're saying. And if they're bluffing, the players will call them out, so we'll see. Now, looking ahead, if the two sides can't reach a deal before the 2026 season starts, a lockout is inevitable. No games, no paychecks, no exposure. It would be devastating for everyone. Players lose money, owners lose money, fans lose entertainment, sponsors pull back. And the longer it drags on, the worse it gets. The scary part? If the lockout stretches too long, some teams could fold. Not all WNBA franchises are financially secure. Some barely break even. Lose a full season's revenue, and survival becomes uncertain. If teams start disappearing, the league shrinks, and fewer teams mean fewer jobs for players. That's why a lockout could be catastrophic. But at the center of it all is Caitlyn, and she's the one who stands to lose the most. She's at her peak, healthy, dominating, the league's biggest star. And if the 2026 season disappears, that's a year of her prime gone forever. Time she can never get back. And that's heartbreaking, because Caitlyn has poured her entire life into reaching this point. And now it could all be derailed by a labor dispute she has zero control over. Honestly, she probably wishes she could just step away from all of it. She likely just wants to play basketball. She doesn't care about the CBA negotiations. She doesn't care about the politics. She just wants to hoop. But she can't because she's part of the union. And if the union strikes, she has to strike too, even if she doesn't want to. That has to be incredibly frustrating. Some people will argue the players are justified, that they deserve more money, that they're underpaid compared to NBA stars. And yes, there's some truth to that. WNBA salaries don't match the NBA. But the reality is more complicated. The WNBA simply doesn't generate the revenue the NBA does. Not even close, so players can't expect the same paychecks. It's basic economics. You can't spend more than you bring in, and if the league tries, it goes bankrupt. But the players seem focused only on getting more money, and that's short-sighted because if the league collapses, nobody gets paid. They need to be realistic about what's possible. And if the owners are truly offering significant salary increases and uncapped revenue sharing, the players should take it because that's a strong deal. Refusing it risks everything. Now look at the fans, they're fed up. They're tired of the drama, tired of the uncertainty, and they're starting to turn on the players, especially since the owners just claimed they've been offering exactly what the players want. If that's true, the players start to look greedy, unreasonable, and public support erodes. And that's huge because without fans, the league can't survive. And let's be honest, the WNBA is already battling declining viewership. After Caitlyn got injured last season, everything fell off sharply. Casual fans tuned out, social media engagement plummeted, and now, with a potential lockout looming, fan interest is slipping even more. If the season gets canceled, why would anyone invest emotionally? Why buy tickets or merchandise? They wouldn't, and that's catastrophic for the WNBA. The players need to step back and see the bigger picture.